Welcome to Momivate Momversations. I'm Regan Barnes, and today I get to have it with me, Sariah.
Hi, so glad to be with Regan today.
Yes, it's a delight to have you, and you're right here in person. So we did not coordinate on purpose, but the yellow and purple really go nicely together.
I like that a lot.
So as you might already know, Momivate holds these momversations with moms, a variety of women in a variety of stages of life. And we're so glad to have Sariah here. She's a mom of two little girls.
Yes.
And also a massage therapist.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's actually a big part of what we're going to talk about today is the importance of touch with motherhood and how we bond with our children, specifically through touch, and how we can be conscientious about that, and what's another good word about that? Intentional, right?
Yes.
We can learn skills and put them to use and gain all the benefits, which she's also going to tell us all of the benefits involved as we go, use this as one of the ways to bond with our children.
Perfect. Yeah.
So let's hear a little bit about you first, like your background and
I have two children. They're both girls. They both shared their birthday on the same week, so we just had a big birthday party for them. Yes, they're 1 and 4. And I became a mother at 21, so I'm a pretty young mom. I'm also a young massage therapist. I own my own business called Mother and Mind Massage. I became a massage therapist when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
Or just before 19 years old. So I've been a massage therapist for quite a few years now.
Yeah, that's math. Yeah.
And
I've actually received a massage from Sariah.
Yes.
So that was a wonderful bonus for in creating our friendship and relationship here. So.
Yeah, and you still need another one.
Of course. Of course.
And my husband's also a massage therapist, so he works with me as well. And yeah, a lot of my drive and passion for massage therapy is the healing that comes through touch and how impactful it is through manifesting love and support through the body and being there for my clients on their healing journeys.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And there's healing going on in both ways. That's something I for sure have felt as a mom who came from what I call a love impaired background. I feel like my own mother worked really hard to show love in a variety of ways. And yet she came from a love impaired background. She had been molested by her stepfather. Yes. And then to the generation there where I have a mom and a dad, but my dad was physically unpresent. Like he never, we said he abandoned us essentially. So left when I was 5 and lived in the same city, but we had zero interaction essentially.
Yeah.
And so just having to heal that in my own ways and yet not waiting to be healed before choosing to have children, right? Like realizing that children was going to be part of my healing process. And even though it also meant recognizing and becoming very self-aware of things that I brought from those love impairments.
Yes, children trigger and reveal those more than anything else, I would say.
Yes.
They reveal and mirror what we haven't fixed or what we need healing very much. I would really agree with that.
Right. And so it is possible, of course, that the love impairment will continue another generation. But overall, what I've come to accept is that as long as we recognize that we're all in this together and that we all want to work towards the healing, that is really the beautiful goal involved in and realizing that there are tools so we don't have to stay stuck in those sensations of these are the ruts in my brain and so what do I do, but looking to people like Sariah for what they've learned and then integrating it into our own motherhood.
Yes, well, and what you brought about the movement, like that's what touch and massage is designed for, is moving those emotions, those stagnant fluids out and through the body so it can be processed at a much more supportive and faster pace.
Great.
So yeah, that's wonderful. And I actually made a post about that last night when I was talking about being on here today, about how I see a lot of clients with generations of sexual abuse and how that impacts them on their motherhood journeys and how they perceive certain touches and certain things. And again, how common it is, like I said last night. So that's something I'm also very passionate about, is how to show what healthy touch is and how to support that healthy bonding and emotion, and to show what's good instead of the absence of anything.
Yeah.
Being deprived of it.
Yeah, because it can be one thing to have grown up as I was growing up and possibly getting spanked or smacked or things like that. And I could choose, I will never spank my child. I will never smack my child. But so that's, conscientiously pulling those out of my choices in how to interact with my child, right? However, it doesn't necessarily fill the void of what to do.
Yes.
Right. And so this sounds like you're contributing a way to fill that void with positives.
Yes.
And not just avoiding the negatives, but actually building a toolkit of positive touch.
I heard this saying in a book. I think it's can't remember what the book is called, Space Theory. I'll correct that later. But in this book, it was correcting this phrase where energy cannot be created or destroyed. And it added to that phrase, unless it is replaced. Okay. So replacing that bad that many of my clients have experienced with the good, with the healing, grafting out, weeding out those branches of corrupt touch, what did you say? Love impaired, impaired ways of thinking, attachment disorders, things like that, and implementing what is healthy, what will actually help our own selves, our own inner childs, and our children's, what they need to develop properly and feel secure attachment in this world. And a huge, crucial part of that is touch. I'm biased with that with massage therapy, but regardless of whether you massage your children or not, the embraces, the hugs, the cuddling, the kisses, not even making it daily, making it habitual in your interactions. It calls for emotional presence. And for children to develop properly without emotional or attachment disorders, they need parents or mothers or guardians, however you will, with who are physically and emotionally present. And touch unifies those together with intention, with embrace, with mirroring the child and their emotions, and being in tune to what's too much pressure, and getting in tune with your own children's nonverbal cues. So you're learning their language, even if they act mad and you can't tell why. As you are more physically bonded to them, you'll be more in tune of how to pick up what's actually going on with them. So it's a very powerful tool for attachment and bonding, especially since touch, especially as babies, is the most developed organ. It's the most developed sense.
Oh, okay. So I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
That skin is an organ.
Yeah.
And at that stage of their lives, they might not be using their brain in the same way we do because they haven't learned speech yet.
Right.
So they and with noises, every noise is new to them, and it might be overwhelming, and they might just kind of selectively decide what noises to pay attention to, right? But when it comes to skin, that's already something that they can be gaining, input.
Yes.
Through that.
Yeah, that's Margaret Atwood, she said that touch is truth. Touch is one of the only clear signs of what's being true. You can lie with words, you can lie with noises, but intention, right? And there's something to be said where sorry, what did you just say? I lost my train of thought.
About how the skin can be a source of input for our babies to be accessing, even though they don't have speech.
Yes.
They can come to understand what our intentions are.
That's
with
what
them.
it was. Right. Our infants or babies, and even our children can have babies don't have this ability at all, but our children can also have a very difficult time initiating bonding. Like babies can't initiate that. And so learning to attach and bond with your child, we're the ones that have to step in and make that a priority. So when, your child, when you go to I don't know, to complain about your children or frustrated or confused, it's, oh, and I'm not really close to my child. It's like, we have to be the ones to initiate that.
Okay.
Yeah. Our children are, gentle spirits that are clothed in fragile bodies, and massage is what welcomes them home. Touch is what welcomes them home and embraces them and allows them to feel welcomed in home without having such a struggle and feeling like they're battling their environment. It gives them sense of closure and security and who they are and who they get to be. So
I love that. And sometimes we touch without realizing that the message that our touch might be sending. And so it sounds like what we need to do is be more deliberate in that and be really conscientious and learn things like you're here to teach us.
Yes.
About ways that we can like if we learn, okay, touching in a certain way sends this particular signal or something like that.
Yes.
Then,
well, and if you look at touch, right, if we look at healthy, loving touch, it releases all these endorphins, oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone. And being a massage therapist myself, I release that hormone not only with myself, but with clients. So I establish a bond with everyone I work on, whether I agree with their views or their ways of thinking. I've created a bond now that would be hard to break because I've given them a different sense of security with how I approach them with touch. And so that being with our children as well, touch, releases all these endorphins, which makes them happier. Endorphins helps with pain management. And massage specifically helps with helps support the immune system, digestive system.
Nice.
And there's been countless of studies where the deprivation of touch has led to infants dying, infants not feeling supported in the NICU setting because they're lacking touch.
Right.
And those NICUs who get massage, they grow faster, they gain weight faster, they're able to process food easier.
Wow.
And so before I teach, certain tricks or things like that, even if you think you're hugging them wrong or it feels awkward, if you feel like you're not massaging their bellies right, either way, the most important thing that you're doing it right, which is establishing bond and connection.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember with some of my infants, my youngest is 6 at this point, but over the course of having 8 infants, I did try to learn some of those tricks, especially for like constipation or something, right? Of like, okay, if you massage in a certain either clockwise or counterclockwise, I don't remember at this point, but then it would help with the constipation or just minor things like that felt like I was giving those kids a little extra oomph, and it sounds like I wasn't just helping them poop.
Yes.
Right? Like I was helping them become aware that I was a helper, that I was there to, even if it had to do with internal things that otherwise I couldn't really have an effect on. But at least I was willing to try. Yes. And that they knew they could come to me for some kind of comfort, and hopefully I did it the right direction. Is it clockwise?
It's clockwise.
Oh, okay, clockwise.
Yeah, that's the way that our digestive system moves. So
okay.
Yes, yeah. Doing it the other way might stuff them even more.
So. But they still know I love them.
Right, exactly. So everyone, like, as far as massaging your children, massaging your spouse, I always get asked questions like, what do I do? Specifically with children, again, just touch alone is wonderful enough. If you're worried about getting them relaxed, consistency is what will help them relax and ease into it more. Knowing, especially if you're starting off fresh, that this has never happened before. It will get them into a routine and an idea of like, oh, this is something that, the lights.
There go the
lights. that I'm doing with my mom. And you don't have to make it just like this whole spa experience. It doesn't have to be this whole hot stone thing. It can involve songs, it can involve music, it can involve silly faces, they can roll over, they can be cuddling with you.
Oh, I love that.
It doesn't have to be so structured. The kids just need to feel safe. And the more you hug and give embrace or touch, you can kind of gauge if they're comfortable, if they're not, what makes them feel comfortable. And even if you're like, my kid doesn't like to be touched, I guarantee most of the time that's not true. They're just active, wild, or they need playtime or.
Well, and I want to share a little bit about that. I have a 15-year-old boy, and he is at a stage, I mean, he's 15, where he's trying to break away, right? He wants to not really have mom on him all the time. And so he has, well, because I believe in asking before I hug one of my kids, he has continually said no for probably a year at this point from me. So I've kind of turned it into a little bit of a game because he has 3 younger sisters and he does accept hugs from the younger sisters. And so right there in front of him, I'll say something like, hey, Madeline, one of the younger sisters, here's a hug, go give it to Reed, and then he'll let her hug him. And so it's a way to try to at least express to him my desire to still hug him while still respecting the fact that he says no when I ask. And so there's ways, I think, to still get through those troublesome times when a kid says, no, don't hug me, don't touch me, and probably the first 6 months I didn't come up with that idea yet, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So we're consistently, it is an ongoing process of healing and figuring out how to manage and work through those very normal teenage feelings of wanting to separate from the family.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because the stages, like I'm mostly referring to younger children and infants, and you're like, well, the teenage years get harder, which is true. That's a whole nother.
It is.
But the consistency that will show how you are still there. You're still bidding for him. You're still trying to show and express that love. And that's something that he will remember and come back to. And
I hope so.
Yes. That's the hope. But as time goes on, I just feel like this next generation of children that's coming in, like your children, all there's a certain level of comfort that's needed to be with all this confusion in the world, technology. There's lots of polls trying to separate children from their parents, and the hyper independence movements, things like that. If your kids go to school or things like that, where touch will be the one connection that we can still have with our children as time goes on.
That nothing else can give, right? Yes. They really don't gain the same oxytocin from hugging their telephones, their cell phones, yes. or they're getting onto the TV or watching a movie. Like, yes, those mediums have ways of influencing their emotions, but it's not a replacement for a mom.
And we live in a world where I get asked all the time, like, well, I used my massage gun and it hurt me. I'm like, I wonder why.
The massage gun can't feel that it's too hard.
Yes, or that you have bursitis or things like that.
Yeah.
So we live in a world where touch is trying to be replaced, where connection is trying to be replaced. And as we as mothers, as we're gaining more awareness of, you know, things that happen generationally, things that are happening within our own families, we can implement that call to comfort and to connect with our children, whether it is through massage or hugs and embrace. And, you know, I've heard of things like give your children hugs 20 seconds every time you hug them, or give your children hugs like 12 times a day. You know, there's different things like that where I think you figure out what gauges well for you and your child. And that's where it's like one touch doesn't work for everyone, right?
Right.
Everybody, for everyone, like,
yeah,
everyone gets massage or touch in a different way. So
and as the mom, that's our purpose, is to figure that out with each child,
yes.
you know, and that is what you're saying, each one, right? Even though I have 8 children, I can't treat them all the same all the time.
Yeah.
And so I do think that that's where moms are necessary, and that's Momivate's message.
Exactly. Well, and I have 2 children, and they are very different with massage. And my first one specifically, she had birth trauma. It wasn't anything super severe, but it definitely affected her. And she had a very hard time with baths. She couldn't take a bath. She would just scream. She had a very hard time with her head and neck being touched or rubbed. But me trying to implement consistency, letting her know that I'm present with her, still care. I had to work my way around with bath time, whether it's I was showered with her, or, you know, we, you know, did it on a later time or when she was more comfortable. But the more and more I implemented massage, like whether it was on her arms or her feet, once she slept better, she didn't have as many nightmares or problems. It helped her digestive system a lot. And I, of course, me being a massage therapist, I know different tricks with sacrum releases and reflexology points, but even those embraces, that constant physical closeness with her, now she loves massages. She asks for them all the time, especially from her poor grandma. Her poor grandma just has to love on her every time she sees her, but
that's sweet.
It is super sweet. But yeah, she's all about physical contact and physical connection, and same with my other daughter. My other daughter, she didn't have the same birth trauma. Thankfully, she came out asleep.
Wow.
I know. It's so funny, but yeah, and it has helped both my children with the constipation, with the you know, if you have bad dreams or if you're needing extra love and extra comfort, it's the one thing, if everything else is taken from us, that we can give to our children.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, great. Okay, so do you have any specific things you want to share as far as tips and tricks, or, you know, takeaways that moms who are listening to this can go and practice?
Number one thing I think is a mindset, is the emotional presence. Massage with children can be interesting, you know, especially my eldest, she's my energetic, doesn't like being told what to do child. But you can make it playful, it can be fun, it doesn't have to be structured. But also you can, being intentional with it, like, this is a time where I can sit you down and show you affection. And I know when I've talked about, when I say the word touch, it can be, it's
got a lot of connotations, a lot of assumptions behind it.
It's a lot. I would say touch is a lost art. It's a lost way to communicate. It's a lost instinct. So touch forever, right, with mothers and children has been an instinct, and we're losing that. So trying to find that instinct again in yourself, where I'm to be close with my child physically and emotionally. So getting in that mindset again, where I'm aware and I'm present with my child. Eye contact is huge. Babies and children learn through mirroring. So instead of, if a child's like crying or uncomfortable, you're not going to be like, "Yay, you're happy," because then the child
confusing
that dysregulates them. They don't. They learn their emotions through us. We're their mirror in this life.
And so by labeling what they really are feeling and then showing what I do when I'm sad or something like that, like it validates and it gives them tools possibly.
Yes. Yeah. And you know, obviously not everything has to be serious or detrimental, but being present and knowing what they're feeling, picking up on those nonverbal cues, whether it's breath or squinting or clenching their fists. These are what we call nonverbal cues, which they're saying something's up.
Yeah.
Usually closed fist means uncomfortable or hungry. Relaxed fist means relax, safe, things like that, or too much pressure. So basic things for massage with babies, you know, just gentle rubs on their backs. You don't need to know anything fancy basically for young children and infants. I know fancier things, so I can get a lot of rubbing their baby in a clockwise, rubbing the belly of the baby.
The belly of the baby.
Sorry.
Yeah.
In a clockwise fashion, helping, you know, them get through their poops. I know a lot of
or gassiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know a lot of colicky babies, formula fed babies, they get a lot of that frustration. I've even when my children are sick with fevers, just a light gentle rubs on their backs and their bellies helps kind of flush out toxins and gets them feeling calm and soothed. And again, if your baby starts freaking out and it's just not working, just hugging them.
Yeah.
It's the important thing is embrace. It's pressure.
Mm-hmm.
It's solidifying them and their emotions in their bodies and solidifying connection with you and with someone. And, you know, rubs on the feet, you know, putting little pressures on their toes.
Yeah.
With infants versus children, you would have to, I would gauge just a little lighter. You're not, you know, you're not trying to do a deep tissue shiatsu.
Right. Yeah.
But just the rubbing of the skin is very important. And, you know, you can gauge their little muscles on their legs or their arms, and you just do little gentle rubs. And there's a lot, you know, there's a lot of other things that we could go into, but I think that's a good basis of, belly, back, and feet are great ways, areas to get them relaxed. The thing that worked with my eldest daughter for getting her comfortable with massage was her shoulders, her deltoids, just really massaging that muscle and kind of pumping it, and that made her fall asleep. She had a really hard time falling asleep as a baby, and that really helped her. So
wow, that makes me think of like when somebody is frantic, you take them by the shoulders, right? And you just try to say, hey, we're gonna figure this out.
Right.
You know, so there might be something built in there of what connects from our shoulders to our brains to be able to calm down. And I am a believer in that we aren't a separate organism from our soul, right? And so we're figuring this out through massages, how to combine those two things, how to make it so that we can access the inner invisible, right? Spirit or soul, through the tangible. And I think that's a critical aspect to understand about it, is that it's all intertwined.
Yes, everything is connected. And a common saying that I say with you know, a lot of things, but massage, everything spiritual / emotional is made manifest physically. So a lot of pathologies that I see, a lot of discomforts and aches and pains, it's almost always due to emotions and things that have happened in their life. So that's where we get to as mothers for our children, as they're going through all these emotions and all these worries, we get to validate through touch how hard it is to grow up, but two, how hard it is to be in this world, but they have that safety and security with us.
Yeah, I think that's a message that we want to, for one thing, we have to believe it ourselves, and that togetherness really is a way to hurdle over the obstacles. And then as we embrace that psychology, then we can better encourage it within our children and assure them of our consistent presence. So, all right. Well, we are getting towards the end of our time together. So I want to give you a chance to say a final word, and then we'll wrap up.
I will just add, because a lot of you may not have younger children anymore, and your children might be grown up and moving on, becoming independent. I will say, as the more education that we receive and the more awareness we receive of our own issues, or our own quirks or mistakes or whatever, repair can almost always happen.
And that's so hopeful.
Yes, and there is hope, and instituting, again, embrace and affection is a huge hope in repairing any bond.
And I think that's hopeful for ourselves, but it's also hopeful for our children, that expressing to them that someday they might feel a need to forgive me. Yeah. You're right. I'm not going to get everything right because I'm a human and I'm coming at it with a lot of my own, issues and baggage or whatever. And so let's all learn how to work through this together. And again, it's the togetherness and it's the commitment of, I'm going to stick with you, even if you refuse to hug me, or even if, like, I'm still here for you. And hopefully someday you'll decide forgiveness is important towards me, just like I'm willing to be forgiving towards my past generations or whatever it is, right? So,
and that forgiveness is crucial to cleansing the body and cleansing,
getting some of those toxins.
Well, and preparing the way for these newer generations and such. So.
Well, thank you so much for being here. It's so fun when somebody comes to be in person. And the Zoom can work great sometimes, and sometimes it's glitchy. But this way in person is we avoid worrying about those glitches. So we will look forward to getting all of this posted up on our YouTube and things. And we just want to remind moms out there that you can come be a guest and share your insights, and you might not even feel like you have expertise like massage therapy or something, but we still want to hear from you. You still have a valuable insight and perspective that other moms can connect with. And that's what Momivate Momversations is all about. Thank you. Thank you.